Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and even though everybody else has been talking about the recent decision by the ATF to withdraw their letter regarding braces, I feel like I have something to add to the conversation, so that's what I want to talk about today. Now, before we get started, I just want to urge you to become a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition. You know, it's extremely important, especially in this day and age, in the current political climate, to support the groups that don't back down, that don't give an inch, and are actually in court fighting for our Second Amendment rights every single day. I don't care if you click my link, I don't get paid per click or per transaction or anything like that, okay? So I don't care how you get there. Just get there and become a member and fight for our rights. If you get a gift card for Christmas or something like that, you get a little bit of extra money, put it towards protecting your Second Amendment rights. What's more important than that, right? Now, there's a lot of videos on YouTube saying, woohoo, yay, we won, it's a big victory and stuff like that. And, being somebody who came from California and lived there for 4 decades, I have to tell you that a lot of times I have a hard time swallowing a victory. It's very difficult because I know that as long as there are people out there who dislike what we do, there's going to be people out there who try and infringe on our Second Amendment rights. This fight is not going to end now. It's not going to end in a month. It's not going to end in 100 years. There's always going to be somebody out there who's going to be trying to take away your rights. And so we have to remember to stay vigilant and stay on top of things regardless of what happens. Even if things start to move in our direction, we have to remember that there's somebody out there right now whose sole job is to try and infringe on our rights. That is their reason for existence. That's their motivation for waking up in the morning is to try and take away our rights. And we have to make sure that we are ready to fight back against those people at all times, no matter what the current political environment is. Whether it's friendly or unfriendly, we have to stay on top of it. But here's what's going on, okay? So I'm sure you guys have watched other videos where they're talking about the ATF and how they recently withdrew their letter, sort of reclassifying what a brace is, how a brace is supposed to be used. It was extremely vague, and also talking about how they would determine whether or not something should be on the NFA as an SBR or whether it falls into the other categories. So the letter itself really, while it even said that it didn't carry the weight of the law, in itself, just as an opinion letter, it was extremely vague. I mean, it was really hard to follow. So with that being said, that letter was kind of a window into that agency's frame of mind. Okay, so if anything, we got information out of that letter because we know where they stand on it, what they would like to do, and how they would like to see things go in the future. We know that they've been pushing to remove 80%. We know that they've been trying to obtain and have obtained customer records. We know that, what their stance is on braces now. So that, again, that letter was at least a window into the agency's thought process. Now, I was not aware that, I think it was 90 congressmen actually sent a letter to the agencies, so to the ATF, basically telling them to knock it off. I was not aware of that until I watched Colio Noir's video just last night, and he actually showed a copy of the letter. So that's good. That part to me seems like a win. That's where our win came from, because we were able to sway and motivate our congressmen to actually do something about this, to let them know, hey, your constituents are not happy about this, we don't want to see this happen, and we want you to do something about it on our behalf, and they did. And so again, with 90 signatures on a sheet of paper, they sent over that letter to the ATF. Right after that is when it was withdrawn. So to me, that's the win, having our congressmen actually work on our behalf, which we all know is extremely difficult. But in my own personal opinion, the win didn't come from the ATF actually removing the letter, because it even says in the letter that notified us that they're withdrawing their original letter, it even says that they're going back to the drawing board. And so we know that this fight isn't over. They're going back to the drawing board. The way that I see this, and the way that I see this going down, is that the ATF is sort of, they're testing our perimeter, okay? So the ATF is trying to find a weak spot. They're trying to go around to see which way they can go about this that'll cause the least amount of waves and maybe get the least reaction from the congressman that would then, probably step up again. So they're trying to find our weak spot that they can get us with next time. And so the next time they go after this, it's going to be the same thing, but it's going to be brought about in a different way. I dealt with that a lot in California, where they would remove something and then they would reintroduce it, but with different language, and the language would seem softer. The idea of accomplishing the same goal of banning something was still the same, but again, the way that they presented it and the way they went about it was a lot different than their original design. So I know that that's a thing that, people who want to take away our Second Amendment rights like to do. They like to just basically use words and change words in order to, still accomplish their same goal. So that's kind of what I think is happening here. They're just kind of testing us to see what they can get away with and where they can push. The other thing is, I haven't seen anybody mention anything about Q and the honey badger. I haven't seen anybody mention whether or not the ATF is now allowing them to produce that product or not, whether or not they've removed the cease and desist, whether or not they've given back any product or anything that they may have taken or confiscated from that company, or other companies that were also raided by the ATF. So if this is truly a withdrawal and they're looking at this from a different light now, or they're just simply backing off braces, what's going on with Q? I think if they've withdrawn their, opinion on reclassifying things based on certain features, sizes, weight, lengths, and so forth, then Q should be in the free and clear to continue producing and selling their product. But they're not. To my knowledge, they're not able to go back into production yet in the current configuration that they were, or the configuration that they were before all this started, which means the ATF is still holding up some part of what they would consider to be legal and not legal. That means that even though the letter doesn't exist, the ATF still says or thinks in their own mind, as you can see by that window that we talked about earlier, that if you have something in a specific configuration and it doesn't meet their standards, well, what does that mean? Do we need the letter, which, like they said, carries absolutely no weight of the law in order to understand what we have going on? Or does the ATF just arbitrarily make things up as they go? We know exactly that's what they do. The ATF makes things up as they go. They change things on the fly. They make law without Congress. This is, a lot of people like to use the term rogue agency, but I even think I've even said rogue agency, but in reality, they're an agency that's controlled by the Department of Justice, and so the Department of Justice does have control over the ATF, and so there is a chain of command, and this stuff has to come from somewhere, and there's accountability somewhere, but it's just the fact that somebody does not care. So for me, I would like to see the ATF actually come out with a letter in the reverse, stating that the ATF feels that these things are perfectly legal, not considered shouldering devices, and considered that we do consider, the ATF does consider them stabilizing braces. And if I saw a letter like that, I would definitely feel like this is a win, and I would feel a little bit more comfortable. I wouldn't give up the fight because there's so many different fights to be had, but still I would feel a little bit more comfortable. But the ATF isn't going to do that. They're not going to come out with a letter saying that, look, we pulled our previous letter back and we've redetermined that these are considered stabilizing devices, and whatever configuration that you have under 16 inches should be fine regardless of caliber and stuff like that. If they were to write a letter like that, then maybe I would think otherwise. But just while it's good to be able to celebrate a win for having our congressmen step up and do something about this, I just wouldn't be so careful. I'd be cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see for braces in the future. This alone isn't the first time that the ATF has looked at braces, so we know that they could do it again. So while I seem pessimistic, you have to remember where I came from. The Second Amendment has been under attack in nonstop fashion, in worse than it has been in just about any other state. California is just absolutely terrible when it comes to the Second Amendment. So I try and be optimistic, but at the same time, I'm so cautious that I look for every angle that these people try and play. And I can tell you, they have a big playbook. Do not let them fool you. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that today and where my mindset is and where my thought process is on the ATF's most recent letter to withdrawal. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you join the Firearms Policy Coalition, because stuff like this is what they do. This is what they do for a living. They fight for our Second Amendment rights. So become a member, donate when you can. Thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.